Here we go.
It's the Andrew Christopher Show. With Andrew Christopher, your host. It's the Andrew Christopher Show. But really we call it the AC Show.
Brought to you by nobody, still,
Yeah, we
yet.
really call it the AC Show.
Maybe Clearbrook Coffee could be a sponsor.
Oh, yeah.
We call it the AC Show.
Mr. Nate Pracknow?
Yeah.
Is that how you say his last name?
I guess it depends who you ask.
Looking for sponsors, Nate. Show me them dollar bills. Clearbrook Coffee. Yeah. I still haven't been able to test or taste the coffee that you guys gave us at your wedding because we don't have a coffee grinder. And it's like the whole bean, right?
Didn't Jamie get one for Christmas
I don't know.
a couple of years ago? No.
Maybe.
Anyways.
Anyway, we're with my sister, Carolyn.
Hello.
She is married to Nate, who we were referencing, who is the owner-operator at Clearbrook Coffee. We'll give him a shout-out anyways, even though he's not paying for it. But yeah, how are you doing?
Pretty good, thanks.
Yeah? What have you been up to this weekend so far? Because I know you did some cool stuff. You always do.
Oh, not as cool as I wanted it to be because our summer weather has not been that ideal for being in the mountains. But
Yeah, that's right.
went on a hike yesterday, Rainbow Lake and Hanging Lake up by Whistler.
Oh, yeah?
Ran up the Chief this morning
which
before
lake?
coming here.
Which lake was nicer?
Oh, definitely Rainbow. I
Really?
couldn't actually see Hanging Lake because it was too fogged in.
We did, Jamie and I did one on a drive up there once. It's like before you come into Whistler. I think you told us about it. It's a really quick one to a falls.
Brandywine.
Yeah, Brandywine.
That's my all-time favorite waterfall.
It's a cool looking, yeah. And it was just like a 15-minute hike.
Yeah, and
Like
it's
you
just
pull
flat.
off and walk. Yeah, it's not even a hike. It's just a stroll through the woods. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then on your way back, you did the Chief
Yeah, this morning.
this morning, right before you came in here.
Had a lovely peanut butter and banana sandwich for breakfast on the mountain.
Yeah, and then for your second breakfast,
Andrew made me a much more delicious egg and cheese sandwich.
yeah, you're welcome. And
yeah,
we had
thanks.
some delicious coffee from Folgers.
Whoa.
Yeah, pretty special stuff around here. So, for one of the first things I wanted to ask you was about, because these freaking cats, I don't know if you guys can hear them while you're listening, but they're fighting already. They're crazy. Like, from what you've seen, aren't they just the weirdest
I
cats?
thought they looked pretty chill, everything
don't
I've
know.
seen.
They're-
Although one just tried to drag my shoe
Yeah,
up the stairs and it was probably pretty smelly.
like a dog. Like, yeah, they're weird. Anyway, so the first few podcasts I did were kind of like my life, reference of my life. And I was wondering if you had anything to add to that, if I missed anything or whatever. I think you kind of mentioned this thing before, and I just think it's really funny that I wanted to talk about it, that I forgot to bring up. A big part of our childhood.
Oh, definitely our playroom.
Yeah.
In the addition to our house, once our parents built that, then on one of the walls in the playroom, we had a giant map of the world, which I'm sure is what got me into traveling. And
From National Geographic, right?
yeah, I guess so. I
Yeah,
didn't
it was
actually
like
think
a
about
whole,
that.
yeah, like an
It was the
entire
wallpaper.
Wallpapered, yeah, just like one big map of the world.
Yeah, but we had a very exciting game of sitting on the other side of the room, taking a bouncy ball and throwing it at the map. And that would determine either maybe what your spouse's name would be in the future or what part of the world that you were going to live in.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember all the logistics. So somebody must have been like standing by the wall, right, to judge where it hit.
Yeah. You just
I'm
carefully
guessing.
don't hit them with the ball.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. You'd always have to, I would aim for Chad anyways as being
Yeah, so
the name
who
of my
was-
future husband.
Who was the Chad? Did you have a crush on a Chad in
No,
school
it just
in
sounded like a more logical name than Mongolia or something.
Zimbabwe?
Then I'd never find somebody to marry.
Yeah, yeah, that would be tough. Yeah, that was funny. I do remember that pretty clearly. Good times. And I remember the big Aladdin cutout. I think I did talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
From the movie theater.
So that was my big thing. I had this like life-size cutout of Aladdin, like the whole. I don't even know what it was. It was just like a promotional piece of cardboard.
yeah, I think
for
that
the
it's
movie, and
at
they-
the movie theater.
Yeah, and then, but the big thing I remember about you was when you won your craft dinner
Oh, yeah.
contest.
a year's supply of craft dinner,
That's right.
which was like 400 boxes.
And so tell me the story. Do you remember the story that you, because the question was how KD came to be.
Yeah,
Right.
so Kraft had put out this competition to make a commercial for them or to come up with an idea. So my friend Marissa and I, we came up with the story of how KD came to be. So we made these little paper cutouts. These were our actors in the show, and we had a little cheese and a little macaroni, and we told the story of how it came to be, and then it created a bowl of craft dinner. We wrote a song for it and all sorts. And
So,
yeah,
So was the hidden premise that the cheese and noodles had babies and they were the
yes,
yeah, okay.
obviously, Andrew.
There you go.
So
Well, but you guys didn't show any of the act
no,
of
we did
making
not.
love or anything.
But
No.
first prize was $10,000.
And you
and-
got your face on. I remember that. It was $10,000 and like you were on the boxes of craft dinner, weren't you?
Oh, maybe. I don't even know.
Oh, maybe
I
I'm
just
making
wanted
that
the
up.
money.
Okay,
but,
go ahead. Yeah.
But second prize was a year's supply of craft dinner.
Yeah.
We got second.
And then our closet, when they delivered it,
Yeah.
we just filled up this one like it was a closet for like jackets and shoes and stuff, and it just went floor to ceiling with boxes of craft dinner.
Yeah. And the funny thing was that the craft dinner expired before the year ended.
Oh, really?
So it couldn't even really be a year's supply.
Oh, what a ripoff! Man,
I should write and complain.
yeah, get another year's
Decades
supply.
later.
Yeah. You could even go in for some like traumatic experience. Say you've been dealing with it for this past 10 years.
Yeah.
This experience,
Definitely.
more than 10 years,
Definitely impacted my life.
20 years.
Oh,
No.
man. I'm not that old, Andrew.
No, it must be close.
No, it is. It has
Yeah.
been over 20 years.
Anyway, that's fun. Thought we'd start it off on a light note. And another thing, I want to do this because now I just thought of a better way to do my game about people's all-time favorite song. So don't say what it is. And because I asked a lot of my guests this, but what I can do now, because we're not putting these on YouTube, so there's no copyright issues, is I can actually play the song and people have to like guess what it is and they can see how quickly they can figure it out. So I'm sure a few people out there will get it right away. Like Dylan, if he's listening, because I know he likes this one. But yeah, so we'll play Carolyn's all-time favorite song, and then we'll talk about it.
Dun, dun, dun. Such a chill Sunday morning song.
So good. We just have to play the first lyric, and then we can stop.
That's true.
Desperado.
There you go.
What's the song?
Desperado by the Eagles. Classic. So why do you choose that song? Do you remember hearing it for the first time anywhere or over and over somewhere?
I really got into the Eagles one summer when I went over to England, because there was a few summers when I'd go over and stay with our grandparents and work. And I was working in this restaurant in the kitchen, and it was the Eagles, U2, and Oasis. We listened to those 3D CDs over and over again. I don't know if it was because we didn't have any other CDs or what, but
And Auntie Trish is a big Eagles fan.
is she?
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. I would just wondered if that tied in somewhere.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I don't know. I just always love the sound and it's so chill. And then now more so, I think listening to the words and kind of just picking out little bits that are funny. Yesterday, it's one of the songs that I was singing while I was hiking to try and scare away any bears that might be on the trail.
Yeah. That's funny. You're singing that song.
That's one of the ones I was singing.
So you're a fairly accomplished pianist, I guess. No.
No.
Well, what grade did you make it to? You went further than any of us.
Grade 5,
That's pretty good.
but I hated doing the
Yeah.
exams and stuff. And so I actually quit piano without telling our parents. I don't know if you knew this or
Oh.
not, but
Yeah.
I was supposed to be going to lessons on, whatever day of the week after school it was. And I stopped going and I told my piano teacher that our family didn't have the money to pay for it anymore. But then, it's a small town and people talk. And so word got around and they discovered that I'd quit piano.
But I mean, you went further than any of us other kids. Like we all went through piano lessons.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you were more accomplished. You accomplished that. So
I did.
you are a accomplished pianist.
Better than 3 people.
Yeah. Did you ever learn that song?
No.
I don't think I've ever heard you play it. Yeah.
No, I didn't. And I think that's what I disliked about the exams is that you don't get to choose what you're playing and whatever. So it's not quite as fun.
Yeah, I guess. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I love that tune. It's a good one. I think that would be my favorite Eagles one. Did Garth Brooks sing that song? I think he's done a version or two, like a cover thing, maybe even just in concert.
Not one that I've heard.
No, I swear. Maybe I'm thinking of a different song. But anyway, so covered a little bit about our youth there with the bouncy balls and your favorite music and stuff. One thing I wanted to talk about was our trip to Romania, because I think that was a big moment in our life, in our bonding, and we were kind of forced to spend a lot of time together out there. And really, it went pretty well, I think.
Yeah, it was about 2 months, I think, in total.
Kind of, pretty much living together and working together every day at this camp.
Yeah, and we were given a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, so explain kind of how it came to be, and then what we were doing up there.
Yeah, so for me, even I think it was when I was like 9 years old, I remember hearing stuff on the news about Ceausescu and all these orphans that were, a lot of
Ceausescu
kids.
was the president. Is it a president?
Yeah, he had been the leader.
Leader,
and that was kind of just before the fall of communism.
Right.
And then when communism kind of fell and he was kind of ousted, and I should know this, I think he was killed, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, but there was a lot of kids who were left in these orphanages, and because of some people trying to help and sending over blood for blood transfusions to get these orphans back up to health, but some of the blood then was tainted. So anyways, it became a big thing in the orphanages that a lot of kids had AIDS or HIV. So that kind of became a big issue. And I remember hearing about it when I was like 9 years old, and it just seemed like something that kind of God placed on my heart really early on. One day I will go to Romania. And then it didn't happen for many, many years. It wasn't till I had finished university. But it was still a constant thing. Like anytime I heard anything about Romania, I was like, I will go there one day. And then it was through some connections in England, some people that I'd met at a church there who knew someone who ran a camp. So I went over for a summer just after I finished university. So that would have been 2004. And met some amazing people, had an awesome time. And it was just kind of a camp for a lot of underprivileged kids. And then I left and I went to England for 3 years. And then stuff kind of happened and I ended up deciding to go back, and I didn't know how long it would be for. Ended up being 3 years, but it was when I returned, then that was when you came along and joined me for that summer. So I guess it would have been summer of 2007, 2007, something like that.
I briefly talked about it on some of the other podcasts, but I probably didn't do a great job of explaining it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we were at this camp in the middle of the mountains, just surrounded by little tiny villages. And we did a lot of singing, a lot of skits. And
trying to learn Romanian.
Yeah.
You've obviously have it. How is your Romanian now?
I would say understanding it would be still pretty good. Speaking it now because it's been like 8 or 9 years. Bits of it come back. So like yesterday when I was singing Scaring Away the Bears on the Trail, then I started singing a bunch of the old Romanian kid songs. So those I got down. But yeah, it's definitely not where it...
Yeah, I still have a few of the tunes in my head too. It's funny. I think I got by because it seemed like they knew a tiny bit of English and I knew a tiny bit of Romanian, and we could kind of make it work. I didn't have as great a handle of it as you did, but
yeah, I remember even at one point, and maybe with like a couple days notice, we were kind of sent away to this little village and asked to run an English camp for a bunch of kids.
Oh, yeah.
And the two of us, I mean, at that point, we didn't really speak Romanian.
No.
And didn't have a clue what these kids were going to be like. And they were like, just go. It'll be great. So
Yeah, that is weird now that I think about it. We were like, we were in charge
Oh yeah.
of that place, pretty
Yeah.
much. Like it would seem like every week or whatever, a new group of people would come and they would have a couple leaders with that group. But at the camp itself, we were the ones who were there every week and for the whole summer.
Yeah. And a lot of not sleeping. I don't know how I survived back then when it would be
Yeah,
like
we
going to
were-
bed
we
at
were
2 in
young.
the morning and
Yeah, I remember that too.
and then up at like 6. So
Yeah.
but one of the things that I really remember from there, and this is more about you, is that, and it was a couple of years after you'd been in the camp, there was a girl that I became friends with, Alina, and she was a couple of years older than me, and she's in a wheelchair, but she was there as one of the leaders, and it was, yeah, a couple of years after she said to me that that was the first and only time in her life when she ever felt like anyone was jealous of her. And she said it was because you would just spend time hanging out with her and chatting with her. And she said all the other girls in the camp would always come up to her and be like, how do you get Andrew to spend time with you? Why does he like you so much?
That's
So-
funny. I think I do remember Alina. I think I could picture her at least, but
Yeah.
I didn't know that story. That's funny.
But you did have your fair share of a couple of Romanian girlfriends over
I was-
over the summer.
I guess I was a bit of a hot commodity just because I was Canadian, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right? It's
And you could sing.
something foreign.
so.
I guess, yeah, I would do my singing. I remember for some reason I would always sing Josh Groban, You Raise Me Up.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one? Like if people were like, they would come up and ask me to sing. Like I couldn't play guitar to it, but I would just do it a cappella.
Yeah.
And they seemed to really like that one.
I just remember closing time. I think we sang a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Save Tonight, probably.
Yeah.
A couple of those easy 4-chord ones, the first ones I learned on guitar. Yeah, that was good times.
Yeah.
So one of the other things we had talked about, maybe talking about, was your fear of people brushing their teeth? Or is it just that you don't like people brushing their teeth?
It could be a dislike, maybe a fear. Like, I've cried a couple of times because of it.
So you got to explain it a bit more. Like,
I don't even know if I have anything to explain. I just think it's disgusting. Like, I think it's something that we need to do in life.
are you worried people are going to hurt themselves?
No.
Okay. Like I thought maybe it's like you'd see people and you're like, you're going to choke or you're going to stab yourself. Be careful.
Maybe
And then you
there's a
freak
bit of a
out.
worry that, like, some of their brushing will get on me. But
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I just think it's something you got to do in the bathroom. I think it's horrible when people will be brushing their teeth and then they'll like come into the
Walk
kitchen.
around or come and talk to you or something.
Yeah, especially talking to you. Like, that's gross.
Yeah, I don't know. I
So-
feel like there's a lot more gross things in life that you would be worried about.
Like-
Because, I mean, you're cleaning your teeth.
I know,
So
but
it's
it's no.
before, if I was talking to you now, I think that's more disgusting than if I go brush my teeth and I'm talking to you. Because at least they're being cleaned, right?
There was a time when I was, and this was in Romania, I was hanging out and a guy who was there from England, Johnny, he knew that I hated people brushing their teeth. And so he purposely came out and started doing it. And I was just like, just go away. Just, no, you have to leave. And then he wouldn't. And so I started getting super worked up and anxious and I started to cry.
Wow.
And then he left.
Because you're big into like camping and stuff, and that's like brushing your teeth outside, right? What
Yeah,
do
but
what
you
do guys
go
do there?
go off into the bush and do it somewhere private.
Yeah.
But,
I guess.
yeah. Or maybe it is just about because I hate chewing gum too. I can't watch people chew gum. And, you know, I can remember touching it and that made me cry when people leave their gum on things or like,
Oh, so it was a traumatic experience.
I guess
From
so.
being a kid, you got gum stuck in your hair, or
I don't think I would.
on
I
your-
wasn't a
on
kid
your
when it made
shoe
me
or on your
cry.
feet. No.
I was probably in my 20s, but
yeah, that's kind of weird. You also really like ketchup.
I do. I don't eat as much as I used to when
Mm-hmm.
I was maybe in university. That was pretty much my dinner every night at the cafeteria because I wanted to save money. Was just I would get the plain rice, the steamed vegetables, and then I would put ketchup on it.
Yeah, I put ketchup on a lot of stuff too. Like I do ketchup with my pierogies.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a lot of people are against that. I was trying to think of what else it was that Jamie gave me a hard time about. But I don't know. Yeah, I would do it with most. Like I would do it with chicken.
Yeah,
It's fine.
for sure.
It makes everything taste better. So I guess that's not that weird. Something we have in common, I guess. There.
Oh, lovely.
So all this time in Romania and whatever, do you feel like you did kind of accomplish something you were set out to do there in helping and building programs, or what was kind of your main takeaway from that time? And do you plan on going back anytime soon, or do you hope to? Or
Yeah, I hope to. Like, it'd be neat to bring Nate there because he's obviously never been, and I think it's just a very different sort of culture and place to visit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do feel like I accomplished something there.
I think you did as well. I was just kind of wondering, what you think some of your biggest.
Yeah. We
things
kind
are
of started a project there primarily for adults with developmental disabilities. So I was staying at a center that did a lot of work with kids. But kind of through that, we were realizing that even just the street that we lived on, I could pinpoint like 8 different young adults with developmental disabilities that were doing nothing. Kind of, once they were sent away to school, but once school was done at that age, then there were no programs for them. So we started doing just kind of a little day program thing, just getting together once a week and building up those connections. And then started getting to meet different families who had kids with disabilities. And I connected with a woman there, Elena, who became like my Romanian mother. And she has a daughter with Down syndrome, Lazuka. And she was a mom who was really trying to get something going. And so we connected, and then connected with the camp that Andrew and I had been at. And through that, we started running some different camps for families with kids with disabilities and giving them the chance to meet each other. Because a big thing for the parents was just that they didn't know any other parents who were kind of going through the same thing. So, so we got that going. And then it also gave a lot of young Romanians who I kind of coerced into coming as volunteers and giving them that experience, because a lot of them had no experience with people with disabilities. And so it was more of a fearful thing.
Right.
So this kind of opened their eyes up to that.
Yeah. It's, and so do you think a lot of these, like even like young adults or adults, they're still living with their families, or were there a lot of them living on their own and just
No, most
of
were still
struggling
with
out
their
with
families.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was more that there's a big burden on the families that they're having a hard time dealing with.
Yeah. And just that so many of them, like, they were still very capable, but they were just kind of stuck in the house because because their families were ashamed of them, or 2, because there wasn't anything for them to do anyways.
Right. And why do you think it's so backwards? Whereas here, it's a lot more accepted in Canada, or not. They are, a lot more accepted and
included.
And included. And so, why do you think it's so different in Romania?
I think Romania is just kind of where we were maybe 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's just weird to think that it's. And I mean, I don't know. Is Romania classed as a third world country?
I don't think so.
No.
But it's definitely taken longer, and I think because of things with communism and kind of until that all broke down, and then they started, I guess some would say positively, and a lot of the older Romanians would say not so positively,
Right.
kind of changing and moving forward and becoming a bit more westernized.
Yeah.
And I think it has its positive points and its negative bits as well. So when I went over to Romania, originally having this idea that I would be working with orphans and that sort of thing, really that's not the problem anymore, because there's not that many kids still living in orphanages, but there are a lot of young people who, now that Romania is part of the EU, parents have gone off to work in other countries. So these kids are left being raised by older siblings or grandparents. So either someone who doesn't have the energy to still be looking after kids, or someone who doesn't have the experience or knowledge to be doing it.
Right.
So it's kind of a new generation of orphans.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting to think about. But it's pretty commendable stuff you did over there. And so some of these programs are still running. Do you keep in touch with the people running them, and do they come to you for advice at all still? Like, are you an advisor? Or?
Not so much, but so the program that we'd started with young adults, then that's still running, and we'd pick the name Mosaic,
Right.
kind of with the tagline, different but part of the same masterpiece. So the organization, the company that I work for now, Pathways, a few years ago, I guess 4 or 5 years ago, we got connected with Mosaic and did a trip over there, took some of the young adults from our program, as well as a couple of parents and staff, and went to Romania. And that kind of developed a connection. So now Pathways and the owner of Pathways, they've got a really strong connection with Mosaic. So they are the ones that are both supporting it financially, but also they're kind of the advisors.
Right on.
So, yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know there was that connection, but that's pretty
Yeah.
special. Yeah. And you've been with Pathways for how long now?
I think 8 years.
Yeah. And you're kind of moving up in a bit more serious role. What was kind of some of the work you started doing on rewriting some of the protocol books or
Doing some
that,
training.
training
kind of
manuals. Yeah, okay.
training modules and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That was,
Which is fun because originally I always thought I would be a teacher. And then,
right.
I
you go.
was going to take a year off after university and go to England for a year, and then ended up there for 3 years and in Romania for 3 years, and then came back and just never went back to get my teaching degree.
Yeah.
So now I get to do a little bit of that still, which is fun.
Yeah, totally. Because you went to UBC, double major
Whoa, good memory.
in psychology and history.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I don't think I've ever talked to you, but what is your favorite parts of history, or what did you mostly study to do with history?
I did more recent history stuff. So
Yeah.
kind of Cold War sort of
okay.
history. So
Cool.
kind of with the whole
Does that tie into
USSR,
Romania
Russia.
at all?
Yeah, it does. Because Romania was kind of part of the whole USSR and kind of under the communist regime and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
I studied more American history than I did Canadian.
Yeah. Which I think, there's a lot of interesting American history, I think.
Yeah.
Probably more. There's just more drama, I would say. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I guess so. But also, it's something that don't ask me any questions about history because I don't really actually remember too much of all the specifics anymore.
I guess, that was quite a while ago, right?
It was mainly because I thought that I would go and be a teacher, and then history would be one of the things that I would teach.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to be a teacher too
Aw.
until I dropped out and joined
Yeah.
a band.
We could have taught at the same school.
I know. I just really wanted to teach PE. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And I mainly just wanted to do the extracurricular activities.
Yeah. Right. And then the other side of that, in your psychology major, what were you kind of focused in that? I'm assuming when you're going through school like that, you kind of focus on one part of psychology, or?
You start to a bit later, but it would have been if I went and did my master's, then I would have
Right.
specialized a lot more. So a lot of it was pretty
broad.
general. Yeah.
Okay. What did you enjoy most about psychology?
I think, in general, I don't even know. I think learning about different studies that were done, I always found interesting. Or, and then getting into stuff with disorders and stuff. So anxiety disorders or, depression and those kind of things. Just very interesting and I think super relatable to
Everyday life.
the world.
So we had said we were going to maybe touch on a bit of anxiety stuff too, because this is something for me I didn't know you were struggling with, and I don't know kind of when you think it started for you or whatever. For me, I have a pretty specific, event in my life when Lily got sick and then when Lily passed away, and I'm fairly certain that's where most of my anxieties and depression stem from. Before that, I feel like I was pretty carefree, life's great, everything's bubbly kind of thing. And then that happened and I've started, just thinking a bit more about why and what all this stuff means and all that. And that's kind of where some of my anxieties come from. But for you, I never knew, or maybe I'm just not remembering throughout high school or stuff, if it was an issue or if there was an event, that you kind of tie in, because I feel like maybe in the last 2 or 3 years, it's been worse for yourself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And
Yeah.
because I think in high school and university, I feel like I was the person that everyone thought was always super cheerful, and I was really positive and
The good sister.
yeah, but also just optimistic.
Yeah.
And Yeah, had a great outlook on life, I think. And
And a very strong faith.
yeah. And I think I'm sure that helped with it too.
Yeah.
So even though, I mean, our family went through some crappy things during those years as well, but yeah, I don't feel like anxiety or anything was a big part of my life back then. Yeah, so I think it's been more in the last few years. And I don't know if I can pinpoint a specific thing. Like some parts of me tie it to when stuff started going crazy with our dad and that side of things a few years ago, or maybe even just in general, kind of when I came back from Romania and sort of the way that my life has changed since then, or maybe stuff with my faith. And I used to be very active and I think and other focused, whereas my life has become pretty self-centered in the last few years. Sometimes, like, maybe somewhat in a good way. Like I'm doing a lot of the things I enjoy. So spending a lot of time hiking or running or mountain biking or traveling, that kind of thing. So it's stuff that I love to do. And when I'm doing it, it's great. But I also know that then my life has become really focused on myself instead of focused on other people or focused on God. And so maybe that's something where anxiety comes in more because...
Yeah, or maybe it's just that you're being too hard on yourself and thinking that all that time to yourself is a negative thing. And that's where the anxiety is. Because I've seen not a change, but because anytime I would talk about you to people, I would be like, she just always does everything for everyone else. Like she's, taking care of all these people in Romania and she's volunteering all her time at Ruth and Naomi's or this and that and taking in these refugees from Syria or where were they actually? I guess it wasn't Syria, was it?
Sierra Leone
Sierra
and
Leone.
Liberia.
And so organizing all this stuff for them. And I was like, she just does everything for everyone and takes care of all, our sister's kids all the time and takes them out doing these great things.
And now I do nothing for anyone else.
But it's not that because you still spend a ton of time with your nieces and nephews, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to change that again and do that more. And I think that
organize
has
all these
been
hiking trips for all your
beneficial.
friends and stuff, which is great for them, and try and get me out all the time. So yeah, just briefly, I think you are being a bit hard on yourself. But
Oh, thanks.
the anxiety stuff, I feel like, I don't know. And you had brought up social media and self-image stuff as well. And it's something I'd been thinking about that I think is a huge issue these days. And I feel like people's heads maybe aren't as messed up as they could be without social media. How was I going to say that?
Are they more messed up because
They're
of
more messed
social
up
media?
Because of social media. Yeah, something like that. I feel like, and a big on the self-image thing, is everybody looking at all these pictures all day. It's great. You want to share all this stuff, but I think, and I've heard a lot of other people talk about it and some studies done about how you just compare yourself to everyone else's life, like nonstop all day. Like you're on your phone for 3 hours a day, probably just looking at these images, or even just like, advertisements out in the community, looking at these perfect people or perfect houses and stuff. And you're just constantly, without even knowing it, comparing yourself to these families or to these people with their jobs and their homes. And it just, it messes with your head.
Well, yeah, it creates such dissatisfaction because then you never have enough. There's always someone who's going to be better than you at something or have more of something than you have or have the time to do something that you would want to do. So
is that kind of what you were bringing up, self-image wise?
Yeah, definitely part of it. So like physical self-image, but also just, how you feel about yourself in general.
Yeah.
If you're good enough or fast enough or whatever.
Yeah.
Because for me, like I know that I'm pretty decently in shape. And yet I still worry that I'm not good enough to go out with certain people or do something. So go on a bike ride with someone or go for a run because, maybe they'll be too fast or too good or whatever.
I know. And it's so weird because who cares?
It's all about
right?
just having
And
fun and enjoying it.
But it's tough when you struggle in your own head about that.
Yeah. And so for me, like being in nature and being in the mountains is a huge thing that helps with anxiety and helps with kind of clearing my head. But if it's something that I'm not confident in doing, so like mountain biking, then that's not something that helps with my anxiety because
Right.
I'm not really that good. So I can still maybe enjoy it, but not to the same extent. Whereas going for a run or a trail run or something, then it's something I'm confident in and I can do. But yeah, so it clears my head a bit, I guess. But yeah, and I think, and it's so different with anxiety, right? Because it can manifest itself in different ways for different people. And there's a normal amount of anxiety that we can have, and you do worry about things, and that's fine. And then, but then there's also, I think, a physical side to it for some people too. And so when things for me got really bad and I was constantly having these different panic attacks and stuff that didn't even necessarily have a trigger, I would just suddenly, for some reason, start whatever. I think my body, and my body, so my body was thinking that I had something to be scared about, but I didn't. And so then my mind starts thinking, now you do have something to be scared about because your body's going crazy. And so it finally got to a point because it wrecked a holiday Nate and I were having down in Oregon. And we ended up driving back early, like in the middle of the night. And Nate was amazing about that because I think a lot of people would have been like, just get yourself together. We're on holiday. Like,
I tell Jamie that all the time. I feel like I can relate to some of the Nate stuff, and it sounds like he deals with it pretty good.
Yeah, he does. And so, he recognized that I was not doing well. And so he drove me home because I said, I just need to be at home. But I think having experienced that one and that panic attack that I have, then it made me realize, okay, I should go talk to my doctor. And one of the things that he talked about and that we tried was taking like a vitamin B12. So he gave me a shot, which was amazing. If I could like get that shot every week, I would be.
You can't you?
On cloud nine. I think you can, but I feel, I don't know if that's a good thing to do or what, but.
Because they do that at Jamie's work.
Yeah, it made me feel so good. And it kind of got me thinking about how it is that maybe people get addicted to drugs because of that high that you feel. And I mean, it's natural. It's a vitamin, but anyways, but I started just taking vitamins daily and noticed a difference. And I don't know if that's just more of the placebo effect or if it is something that my body needed. So I haven't had any of the big panic attacks since then. I still get anxious about things, but not anywhere to the same extent, which is awesome.
I think more often than not, it is that bodies are out of balance and you do need these supplements and stuff. And I wonder if part of it's like just the food we eat these days, how it's processed and everything. Like we're not actually getting as much nutrients as we think we are. Because I'm on a pretty steady regiment of, I think probably 7 or 8 different pills every morning. Like adrenal support stuff and vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D, getting all this stuff in me. And I wonder if it's something to do with, because it seems like everybody who goes in, they're like, you probably need more of this, or let's look at your blood. You're deficient here, and let's get you on some kind of vitamin or mineral or whatever.
Yeah, so I think there can definitely be that combination of it being a physical thing with what your body needs, and then combining that with, social media and the way that messes with our minds and makes us so dissatisfied. Then,
another podcast I was listening to, and they just brought up that it's just information overload all the time. Kind of like what I was talking about before with all these images and stuff. And he said, meditation's been a big part of his day, where it's like, okay, escape 20 minutes kind of in the early afternoon and then 20 minutes just after dinner time or something I think it was some specific kind of meditation or whatever that he's been doing. And to kind of reset your body, because it is just information coming everywhere from your phone, from your computer, whatever, on the radio, or just driving around. And everything's so busy these days that the bodies just can't handle it. You need some time to reset. So I don't know, have you ever, I guess that's kind of hiking for you, right? Going on a walk or something.
Yeah. And it's so good when, if we go away for a few days and I don't have access to the internet or whatever, because I don't miss it at all if I don't have access to it. But then when you're here, then it's kind of like, oh, I should be checking, or, what else might be updated. And I think that's why it's going to be worse and worse, I think, with the generation that are growing up with this as the norm. Yeah. Because it's just going to be even more overwhelming for them. And so, I think it's going to be hard for the younger generation that's growing up and people who are teenagers now. And it makes me so sad when I think about, I think especially young girls and the way that they're kind of being raised in this culture. And I mean, that's not new either with comparing yourself to other people and appearance and that sort of thing. But
I think it just keeps getting even more and more exaggerated, though.
yeah,
For sure. With
yeah. And then,
technology.
if as a young girl you have parents who, and I mean, I do it, we do it all the time. We talk in front of them about how dissatisfied we are with whatever in life or with how we look or make comments about that. And then they're hearing that. So that's kind of just, ingrained in them more and more.
Yeah, that's tough. It's kind of like we got to be a bit tougher for the kids and not complain so much about our issues.
Yeah. And at least not say it
yeah.
in front of them,
Yeah.
oh, this shirt makes me,
Yeah.
look fat or whatever. Or, so.
Yeah, that's a really good point that I think, even I forget about sometimes is, watching what they hear because they do soak everything up, right?
Yeah, this stuck out to me a couple of weeks ago. And like I said, especially in the last few years, I've gotten pretty active and more in shape and that sort of thing. And I was getting a change and I was by a mirror and I suddenly was looking in the mirror and I was like, I was thinking to myself, like, I could get away with wearing a bikini. And I caught myself after the fact and I was like, that's so stupid. Like, that shouldn't be something you have to get away with.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
I don't know just how harshly we judge ourselves and how much we think about stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Like my dad bod podcast that I want to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because it's the same thing. Just self-image issues, like caring so much about how you look and I guess it's not caring about how you look, it's caring about how other people look at you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And there's that quote I love, and I'll probably get it wrong, but it said that you wouldn't worry so much what other people think about you if you knew how little they actually do.
Yeah. I guess it is. It's like a vanity thing too, like thinking people look at you that way or thinking people judge you.
When really everybody's thinking too much about themselves anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's so messed up. I know. I got to try and be better about that. And then it's like you got to focus. Yeah, okay, be healthy. Take care of yourself. Don't really judge how you look on the outside with how healthy you are because it's not always going to add up perfectly, right?
Yeah.
And you can be in a lot better shape than you look like, or you can be a lot healthier at least, right?
Yeah.
And then people who look like they're super healthy, sometimes aren't. You never idea, but. Yeah, that's a good quote. I like that one. Man. So you were taking some vitamin B12 stuff, you said.
Yep.
It seems to help a little bit here and there, but it's always just kind of an ongoing struggle.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it's definitely better than it was kind of a year ago, I think was when it was kind of at its worst, and it had been for a couple of years. So.
Yeah. Had you ever thought about any kind of like THC or CBD marijuana stuff?
No.
Still a
I think
fight in your
especially
head
because
about-
it wasn't legal then.
Yeah.
And still, I don't think it's something that I would do.
Is it something you think kind of you've been predisposed thinking it's bad coming up that you wouldn't
Probably.
try it, or-
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that definitely has a part of it. And then, I mean, I don't even know kind of all the different options. So for me, when it comes to anything with pot, then you just think about smoking it. And I think smoking's bad.
Yeah.
So that's still in
totally.
my head too. But yeah, I know that for so many people, it does seem to make a huge difference, whether it be with anxiety or, a friend of mine who has MS and he uses it and makes a big difference for him with kind of pain levels and
There
stuff.
is definitely a lot you can look into and stuff that has none of the psychoactive ingredients in it or whatever, right? So it would just strictly be helping with it. But I don't know that much about it either. I mean, I do use, and I've looked into kind of what would be helpful for me and whatnot. But there's always that kind of negative predisposition, like you said, about marijuana and that kind of stuff. So sometimes I'm like, oh, is this still okay? But like you said, it is kind of legal now. And I do believe there are a lot of health benefits, if you're using it in the correct way and in moderation, like everything else, right?
Yeah. And I think for me, it's just remembering to find balance in life. So that, it's okay for me to be focused on the activities that I enjoy, but I also know that some of the times I feel best are when I'm out with the kids and, doing a hike with them or something, or doing something that's giving back somehow. And so I want to find some ways to connect with that again more, and you know,
Yeah.
maybe connect more with my faith and that sort of thing, because I know that has always made a difference. Oh, when I say the kids, that means like not my kids,
That's right.
nieces and nephews.
Not yet, right?
Yeah.
So, in terms of your faith, what do you see has changed, and how are you feeling about that? Because you said maybe you're not as strong as maybe you were in high school. How do you think that's come about? Is it kind of just your thinking has changed and more questions here and there, or because I'm just wondering how it compares to kind of what I've been feeling or going through faith wise, which has been fairly non-existent over the past quite a few years for myself. But
Yeah. And I would still say my faith is existent. I am someone who always have a lot of questions and doubts. And so I think as we get older and life happens and more bad things take place and that sort of thing. So it makes you just question and wonder. And yeah, and I mean, when I lived in England and when I lived in Romania, my life was very much centered on my faith. That's the kind of work that I was doing, the people I was spending time with, and it was awesome and I loved it. And I was very reliant on God and his provision, right? When I was living in Romania, I wasn't earning any money, and yet somehow I still always had more than enough. Like when I came back to Canada, I had money in the bank, even though I hadn't worked for 5 years.
right,
And before that, I was in school. And so some of it I just don't even really know. And I can't really explain kind of where it all came from, right? So I was very dependent on God. And then I came back to Canada, and my life, it felt like I just became dependent on myself. And yeah, and I got busy with other things, and working, and just, I don't know, things kind of became distracted. And yeah, and then, yep, Lily got sick. And so things like prayer for me just didn't really make sense anymore. And
like because it didn't work, kind of thing.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And you see that all the time, right? And
Yeah.
so, if people say that you're supposed to use, like, answered prayer is something that should build your faith and encourage you, but then when prayers aren't answered,
Got to
then
be the other side. Yeah.
yeah, I would think so too. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I definitely still believe in God and believe that there's a lot more to life than what we see here. But I think also just because I'm not involved in kind of serving and volunteering and that sort of thing as much anymore, then I don't know.
Yeah. It's a
So.
tough thing and for me, like I would always say, I still believe in God and yeah, I still believe in God, that kind of stuff. And then, even more recently, I'm like, well, kind of do I, or what? I've been wondering like what exactly I do believe in. And for me, it's always been one of these things where it's like, well, I believe because I have to believe so that, with Lily Jean, knowing that she's okay kind of thing. That's always been a big basis of my faith.
Yeah.
Is saying, it's just too hard to think that she's gone and there's nothing else
Yeah.
for her. And so then I start thinking, well, if that's the only reason I believe in something,
Right.
is that something really to hang your faith on? But I don't know. Is it? Because it's still like believing in God and believing in heaven. You're just believing, because you want to, right? Because you hope there's something else. And so
Yeah.
it's, I don't know.
I think
if
it's
kind of
hope.
the same thing or what. But
And I think a lot of it does come from personal experience too. So there are definitely things in my life that I've experienced where I really feel like I had a connection with God or experienced something. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that people in all different religions feel like they have those things. And so then I also go back sometimes to just the history of things. And a lot of it just makes sense to me historically. When it comes to the existence of Jesus and, the Bible and that sort of thing. So, Jesus definitely existed. Like there's
Yeah.
writings outside of the Bible that talk about him. And so then what do I actually believe about him and his life and how all that happened? If he did die, then so yeah. So there's other writings in that sort of way. And so in some ways it's almost more the facts that help me to believe.
right. Yeah.
But yeah, there's always lots of questions and doubts in my mind. And that's a struggle. And I think that's, like I said, too, part of where maybe anxiety and uncertainty and stuff comes from, because if that was such a big part of my life and then suddenly, maybe you lose a bit of that as part of your identity, that's always a struggle.
Yeah, it is. The other and for me, another big struggle with it is just kind of the actual, the church itself, like the gathering of everybody, all these people, and the leader of the church. When within that can be so much negativity, and I feel like that's where a lot of other people who don't believe and are against it completely look in at that church, and there's like, well, look at these people who are going to this church, like how,
Yeah.
corrupt, for lack of a better word, or just like.
But I guess
or
that's what shows
how,
that shows that we need God, right? Because we're all broken.
Yeah.
And so nobody in the church, I mean, I'm sure that there are churches that do it, but nobody in the church thinks that they're perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Or thinks that they're better than anyone else, because if anything, it should be Christians who recognize that they are broken, and that we all mess up, and we all sin, and we all hurt other people,
Yeah.
and we've all been hurt, and that's kind of why we need Jesus, and we need forgiveness.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, I know a lot of people have been hurt by the church, and that's really sad, because a lot of people look at God through the eyes of what they see the church being like.
It's a tough topic.
Yeah.
I enjoy talking about it though.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny that it's a topic that so many people shy away from.
Yeah.
Even though it's a hugely important life topic, and people should be able to just talk about it openly, even if you do have different views, but people
Yeah,
get
exactly.
so offended by it that they can't talk about it. And it's kind of sad.
And I feel like some people are, when they do talk about it, they are almost like accusing or coming from a place of righteousness. Like they think, no, I'm not doing that stuff. It's so stupid. And they are, like you said, instead of being understanding and talking openly about it, they just have their set mind, and they're kind of being super negative towards the church or Christianity or whatever.
Yeah.
And that makes that conversation difficult to have, because then you get your back up and you're like, oh, geez, like,
Yeah.
I hope you don't feel that way about me, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and I think it can go back to that just fear of judgment that we have from other people.
Yeah.
So someone maybe who isn't a Christian, then they're worried that the Christian person is going to be judging them the whole time,
Yeah.
because we all worry what other people think about us.
Yeah.
So we don't want to bring up any topic that might make that even more apparent.
Rock the boat. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's tough, and you just hope. I guess you got to hope people are understanding, and that
Yeah.
they can have these differences in opinions and beliefs, and
Yeah.
still be friends and still get along. And yeah,
Yeah. And I think I heard someone explain it pretty good once, because I think also maybe people are worried that, they're just going to try and convert me and that sort of thing. And I think people have a misunderstanding of that, and that, if I love ice cream. So if I've tried a kind of ice cream that for me is amazing, like I want to share that with other people. And maybe you won't like it, or maybe you don't like ice cream at all, or if I've been on a hike and it was just life-changing for me, then I'm going to tell other people about it. And I think that's the same way with people in their faith. Like if they've got something in their life that is super important to them, or something that has helped them or changed their life or done something positive for them, then they want to share that with people. And I think it's important for us to be open to just listening. So, if you are super passionate about hockey, like I don't really care about hockey, but if you've joined this team and you want to tell me about it, then I'll listen, because I care about you, and that's something that's important to you. So, and I don't need to take it as you wanting to convert me to become like a big hockey fan. But I'll listen to you, and then you listen to me, and we can just chat about things.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all just about being open, understanding, and being nice,
Yeah.
listening
Yeah.
when you need to. Yeah. Anyway, I think we're probably gonna wrap up pretty quick here.
Andrew, we didn't talk about the main thing that I wanted to talk about.
What was it?
Organ donation.
Oh yes. Okay. So you donated a kidney,
I did.
right? And this is a big deal. I made a YouTube video for you after you
Oh, wow.
donated you knew this when I sang you that Christmas song, "Oh Holy Night."
Oh,
I asked you
okay.
what song you would want me to sing,
Oh, yeah.
and I said, "Oh, my sister's awesome. She donated a kidney, and here's a song for her," something like that. Yeah. So tell us about we definitely have time. I'm not worried about that.
Oh, good. Yeah. And it's not something that I want to talk
Are
about.
you missing your kidney?
I'm so sad. I called it Kiddo the kidney.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask if you had a name.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
So, yeah. And I don't know. Hopefully people don't think I'm doing this because I want to be like, hey, everyone, I'm awesome.
Look
I
at what I
donated a
did."
kidney. But I think it's something I want to talk about because I think it's important for other people to realize that it's something that you can do and that it is pretty easy to be able to like totally alter someone else's life or save someone's life.
Right.
And I didn't even realize that living donation was a thing, like being able to donate part of my body while we're alive.
Yeah. What do you have any kind of list of what you can donate while you're alive?
You can donate your kidney and you can donate part of your liver.
Part of your liver.
Yeah. And then also obviously blood and bone marrow and those kind of things.
Right,
But as far
okay.
as kind of
Organs.
operation wise, organs,
I guess, wait, is blood an organ? No. Do they consider it?
no.
No. It's a vessel.
No. But anyways, yeah, it came about because
Or
my
your skin. Like your skin is an organ.
but you can't donate your
You can't?
I don't think
Like
so.
to like burn victims. You can't do like a.
I think they usually graft your own skin from one part of your body to another.
Okay. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. I'm not a doctor. We're not getting into the technical side of things, but
Okay.
you can donate your kidney and you can donate part of your liver. And yeah, for me, it came about because my friend Haley, who we were friends when we were in university, I just kind of come back from Romania. And anyway, she'd sent out an email just saying that she was going to need a kidney transplant. And she had received one previously, 6 years prior to that, from her mom. And yeah, it went well at the time, but kidney transplants don't last forever.
Okay.
So then this other kidney was failing, and generally I think they usually last for more like 10 years. But yeah, so she was going to need another one, and I saw the email and I was like, yeah, I can do that. Like I didn't have a lot of responsibility in my life. I was working, but I knew I could take time off work. I didn't have kids that I was needing to look after. And so started going through the process and found out that I was healthy enough and I was a match, but then found out that that doesn't even matter because if you want to donate to someone and you're not a match, they kind of have this kidney donor exchange program. So like if you were wanting to donate to Jamie and I wanted to donate to Nate, but we weren't a match for each other, then they just pair up people who are matches. So then I donate to Jamie and you donate to Nate.
Okay.
So I think a lot of people think that you have to be a match
Right.
to donate, but you don't. You don't have to be, which is awesome. You just have to have the desire, and then they put you through all the tests to make sure that you're healthy enough. And yeah, and then it happened, and it all went well. And you know, I had maybe a week of being really sore and not doing a whole lot, and then I had another 4 weeks or so off work. But I don't know, really
You
5.
got to eat all the ice cream you wanted.
I wish.
Oh.
I got ice cream cake because I was in the hospital for my 30th birthday. That was because we donated, it was December 19th, and then December 21st, I was still in hospital, and that was my birthday. And so Haley's family had bought me an ice cream cake, and they brought it there. And then I couldn't eat it because I just still didn't feel great.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't get to eat my ice cream cake for my birthday, which was very sad. But yeah, I just think it's important for people to know that how easy it is to donate, right?
Yeah.
Like, so 5 weeks of my life that weren't the greatest, but then, you know, Haley, now it's been 6 years or whatever, and she's still going strong with that kidney. She's got 4 kidneys in her body now because they don't take out, like, they don't remove the kidneys that don't work.
Really?
I know. When I first heard that, I thought that was crazy, but they said, well, yeah, it's just an extra process or an extra operation that doesn't need to be done. So she's just like stockpiling kidneys.
And then they just attach it somewhere else or beside the other one? Or?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I know. So, but I mean, there's living donation, but then also there's obviously, and since Humboldt and stuff, it's been a much bigger push for people to register as organ donors for after they die.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a huge thing to be able to do. And to let your family know that you've made that decision too. Because if you die, even if you're registered as an organ donor, the ultimate decision still goes to your family.
Right.
So that's why it's important to register, but also make sure that your family knows that that is something that you want to do.
And do you say because of Humboldt, is that because they were such young strong, healthy kids, then that's hard to find.
No, because one of the players, and I should know his name,
Yeah.
and I forget it now. It's something like Buble or Lule or something.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't
No,
remember
that's
it.
okay.
But he was one of the young men that died, but they were able to donate
Okay. Yeah. Now
his
it's
organs
ringing a bell.
yeah, because he had only recently registered, and he'd registered because of some past coach of theirs or something
Okay.
as well, who'd kind of brought it up to the team. So Lule, that's what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
Buble, and
Yeah,
anyways.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, and so after his story went out, then there was a huge increase in the number of people who registered as organ donors. And this year again, then they had kind of Green Shirt Day around when the crash happened, and they made that push again, because supposedly one of the stats that I read from the Transplant Society said that 90% of Canadians support organ donation, but only 20% have actually registered, which is crazy. And it's so easy to register. You can just go to transplantbc.ca.
Yeah.
And so, because some people aren't really sure if they registered, because there used to be the old thing with, I think with your driver's license, that you could just have your sticker on there. So some people maybe aren't sure if they're registered. So you can go and you can check, or you can register online, and it takes 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very simple to do. And definitely definitely worth it.
What are some of the reasons you think people do not register? Like, apart from just not thinking about it and doing it, like, what are the, like, are they worried about, they're like, oh, they're going to chop up my body after I die? Or do you know, like, what are some of the, just to play devil's advocate? Like,
Yeah. And the thing is that I think the main reason people don't is because they don't get around to it, right? Like if 90% of people support it.
Right. Okay.
So the fact that only 20% have, it's not because they have some sort of fear or worry. It's just that they haven't got around to doing it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I guess for that other 10%, then I think some people, maybe think that some people think that it's against maybe their religion or that sort of thing, or kind of culturally that, maybe if you're not, you're not whole kind of when you're buried, then maybe that affects kind of your afterlife or something.
Right. Okay, well, I better do this. So we better.
Have you not done it?
Wrap up and do it. I don't think I have.
No.
Maybe you've made me do it before and I forgot.
Yeah.
I don't have the sticker on my license or whatever.
Yeah. But also living donation is something I think people can look into. Like, even if, I think most people don't do it unless it's someone that they know and that they care about, but you can do it as an anonymous donor too.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that'd be pretty incredible.
It is. And those people really amaze me, because then they're going through it for just some complete stranger. But there's a lot of people who are spending their whole life on dialysis, and that's, a few times a week having to go into the hospital and be there for like 5 or 6 hours.
And that's because they can't find a kidney.
Yeah.
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 Or, that's
dialysis,
right?
That's for kidney donation.
Yeah.
So, you can really
all right,
change someone's life.
There you go, guys.
Register.
What is it? The website?
Transplantbc.ca.
There you go. That's easy. Thanks for coming in. Is that okay now if I cut you off?
Yes. Now that we made sure we covered that.
Yeah. And we will, I promise you, we'll go on my computer here and register me. Maybe for the afterlife one. I don't know about the living one.
Yeah. You don't have to register for that, really. That's more.
Oh. Anyway. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
I love you, sis.
Love you too.
It's the Andrew Christopher Show. With Andrew Christopher, your host. It's the Andrew Christopher Show. But really we call it the AC Show. Yeah, we really call it the AC Show. Really call it the AC Show. It's the AC Show.
It's the AC Show with AC, your host. Check it out.